boys and girls, if you remember yesterday, we talked a little bit about weather, but we used a different word instead of weather. Does somebody remember? Raise your hand. 3 people know. 4 people know. 5 people know. It's a different word. How about if I go up a couple and maybe it'll spark some memories? Okay, most half the class knows. All right, so another word for weather over a long period of time is, everyone?
Climate.
Climate. Good deal. Way to go, boys and girls. So if we look back here, we also looked at this reading, and we read it out loud once. We're gonna read it again together, and when we're reading it out loud, I want you guys to write with your whiteboards any words that you don't know. Okay? This means you have to really be thinking about what you're reading and know that you don't know it. Okay? So you just write them down on your whiteboard. So you might not want to write it quite big because you might have a lot of words that you don't know. Okay? Now, if you don't know it and somebody else knows it, is that okay?
Yeah.
So if you don't know it and you write it down and you look over and you say, somebody else isn't writing it, is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is about what you know about climate. Okay, so I also have little color marks on the corners. Don't pay any attention to those right now, okay? So just take a couple of these papers. We're going to read this. Oh, did I get that? You're welcome. Good manners. Do you need another one? Yeah. We're going to go ahead and read this again. You're welcome. Very good manners. Alrighty. Alright, boys and girls, I want us to choral read this. Does anybody know choral reading means all together, okay? We're going to read this all together. Yesterday I read it and you guys inserted words. This time you're going to read it. You have to really be listening to what you're reading and write down any words that you might not know. Okay? We learned the word climate yesterday, and that's weather over a long period of time. What is climate again?
Weather over a long period of time.
Perfect. What is climate again?
Weather over a long period of time.
Turn to your partners at your desks there and explain to them what climate is. Right here, repeat to them. And ice. Perfect. Good job, you guys. Remember the signal from yesterday. Okay. We're going to read this out loud. You're not going to hear my voice very much because I want to hear you guys reading it, not me reading it. Because I know how to read it fluently. Okay? I'm going to help you guys out, so we're going to choral read this. You're going to pay attention to any words you might not know. I like that. He wrote down words I do not know. Okay? So we're going to write down any words that you might not know as we read it out loud. Are you ready to start? When I snap, we'll begin with the word climate. Okay, I'll read the first couple sentences and then I'm going to stop reading. And you guys are going to continue reading. Okay, I need to hear your best fluent reading voices. So you should have the paper in front of you. You shouldn't be making any drawings or anything yet. Fantastic. Paper in front of you, markers out, ready to rock and roll. Put your finger on the first word, climate. Good job. I like that one, Diego. Nice job. Good job. Good job. Okay, thank you. Looks like we have ready positions. Let's go. Climate is the kind of weather a place has over a period of years. What do scientists, known as climatologists, look for when they study a region's climate? You are already familiar with most of the ingredients. And temperature. They also look at how each ingredient changes from month to month. Does it rain more during certain months than others? Has it been unusually dry compared to other years? Pause. I want you to look back through that paragraph and write down any words you might not know. I'll give you 45 seconds to read through that paragraph and write down any words that you might not know. I'm going to have you reread through that, any words that you might not know. 20 more seconds. Okay. Oh, good. Climatologist, that's a big one. Region. Excellent. Good job. Okay. Put your finger on the first word of the next paragraph, keeping. Let's go ahead and read that paragraph. Remember, you're listening for words that you might not know. You're reading through them. My voice will drop off. Ready? Go. Keeping track of climates is important work.
People worry that human activities may change the global climate, which could cause big problems. There are 5 factors that make air climate vary from place to place. How does each factor
influence temperature and rainfall? Pause. Write down any words that you might not know. I'm going to just give you 30 seconds for that paragraph. Global might be kind of tricky. It might not be. 15 more seconds. Okay. We'll read each one of these highlighted sections. Do you remember yesterday we talked about bolded words and listed items? Raise your hand if you know why some words are bolded. 3 people know why some words might be bolded. 6 people know. Matt knows, I saw his hand shoot up. Why would words in a reading be bolded? And bolded means that they're darker than the other words. Why? Only half the class knows. Okay, don't be afraid. Why would words be bolded? Why are words darker than other words? Okay, Matt, tell me why some words are darker than others.
Because, well, for regions and equator, it's just showing you, okay, they do have 1 and 2 next to them. It's down below, it says regions, any large part of Earth.
Oh, good point. Okay, so we've got bolded words up here, and then they're actually down here, and it's like a little dictionary at the bottom. Point to the dictionary at the bottom. Okay, yeah. So you have some definitions, but there are some words that are in bold that don't have the dictionary at the bottom. Awesome point. Go ahead.
They're important.
They're important words, okay? So let's figure out if we know them. If we don't, we'll write them down, and then let's learn about them, okay? So first paragraph, put your finger on latitude. That's how you say that word. Everybody repeat to me, latitude.
Latitude.
Awesome. Okay, here we go. We'll say latitude one more time. Ready? Latitude. The distance of a place north or south from the equator.
The closer region is to the equator, the hotter it is on average all year long. The farther away it is, the cooler it is. Summers become shorter and milder.
As you approach the poles, winters become bitterly cold. Pause. Check that out. About 20 seconds, 25 seconds. That's a really short paragraph. And if you don't know latitude, you can go ahead and write that down. Not attitude, latitude. Ooh, nice. Okay, and I see about 5 or 6 words, so I'm thinking we're going to do one more paragraph, and then we're going to stop and talk about those words, because we don't want to read too much and have a lot of words that we don't know. And then the more we read, the more we're not going to know, right? So let's go back and clarify our understanding of those words, okay? So let's go to altitude, number 2. We'll say altitude when I snap. Ready? Altitude. The height
of a place above sea level. Higher elevations tend to be colder than lower elevations.
If you have any questions, any words in that 1 or 2 sentences, go ahead and write those down. I'll give you 10 seconds.
Actually, before the word, it actually does have an dictionary form. Latitude, it's that's the paragraph that we just read through.
Excellent
It's telling
point.
you about latitude. And the one that we just barely, that we only have documents that's telling you about altitude.
Excellent point, Matt. Nice job, because you're absolutely right. The dictionary is within it. We call that using context clues to know the definition. So we'll talk about that. Nice job. Elevations, okay. Sweet. All right. Marker caps on. Put them down. Have your paper in front of you. Ready to rock and roll. Okay. Yesterday our learning target was about summarizing the important ideas in a paragraph. And now today, in order to get to the important ideas, we need to understand some of the words that we're reading. Okay? And you guys have a couple of words written down. So let's take a look at those. And as I'm going around, I noticed you have some of the same words that I have. You see up mine, I have green all over on my paper. Those are all words that I kind of didn't know if I knew for sure. How many, do you guys have more or less words than me?
Less.
Less? Okay, what does that mean? You guys are smarter than me, right? I had a lot of words that I was kind of confused on. So let's look at our learning target for today. The first learning target, and we have this definition, we repeated it at the beginning. I can use vocabulary words in a sentence with a partner, but you can't just use the vocabulary word anyway. You have to relate it to weather. Okay? It has to be related to weather. You guys ready to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's practice it with our first word, climate. Everybody, what's this first word?
Climate.
Climate, and we've repeated it already to our partners. It is the
Kind of weather of the year as over the period of years.
Lucia, what is climate? The kind of weather what? Right on. Edwin, climate is what? Yeah, the kind of weather over a period of years, okay? So a lot of you didn't have climate, but you had climatologist, okay? So what part of that word, climate, is the study, or a climatologist studies climate? It's a guy that understands climate, okay? So say the word climatologist, repeat. Okay, a climatologist is a person who studies the climate. Turn to your partner and repeat that. A climatologist is a person who studies climate. Repeat that. Keep repeating it. And eyes. Awesome. Let's go to the next word. Region. Everybody repeat that word.
Region.
Right on. Let's read the next sentence below the picture. It is any large part of the Earth's surface. Everybody read that?
Any large part of the Earth's
surface. Okay? So this is a map of the world. Okay? A region is a part of that. Okay? So here's the United States. The United States could be considered a region in the world. Okay? It is a small part of a bigger picture. Here is Mexico. Mexico could be considered a region because it is a small part of a bigger world. So climatologists study the climate in small regions. Okay? A climatologist couldn't possibly understand the climate in the whole world. So they study it in smaller regions. Okay? Look at my sentence that I came up with, and then you're going to have to think of a sentence on your own. There are certain regions of the earth I would like to visit. My birthday is coming up in like 6 months, and I'm going to be 40. You guys can all go, Exactly, that's what I say every time I think about turning 40. I want to go to Greece, and Greece is located right in this region. So that is a certain region of the earth I want to visit. I want you to put your fingers to your head for your thinking. And I want you to think about a sentence using the word region as it relates to weather. Thinking about the word region. Weather, region. Get a sentence in your head. Okay, now pull out the sentence from your brain and share it with the person sitting next to you about region. I want to hear those sentences. Oh, did you? Okay, I might not say sorry. Tell him your sentence. Did you share with each other? Okay, and guys, one person to share their sentence about region as it relates to weather. My sentence didn't say anything about weather. I just want to go visit places when I turn 40. One person to share their sentence about regions. I heard you all share a sentence. Go ahead, Zoe. No? Go ahead.
Some regions are hot and some regions are cold, and they get hotter the closer to the equator.
Oh, nice job. He put two huge important facts in there, and we're going to get to that other one. So he said some regions are cold, some regions are cold, some regions are hotter. Okay? Regions. Now, think for a minute if you need to rephrase your sentence that you shared. Some regions are hotter and colder than others. Turn to your partner and decide if you need to say a different sentence using the word region and weather. Go. And ice. Okay, so region. We've got climate and we've got region. Our next word. Latitude and equator. All eyes up here. Repeat those words.
Latitude and
Equator. Okay, so this is kind of one of my favorite words. I love latitude because it talks about different regions of the earth. Okay. Here is the definition. The distance north or south of the equator. Repeat that, please.
The distance north and south of the equator.
Latitude is the distance north or south of the equator. Repeat that to your partner. Okay, I have to laugh because we were talking really loud, and then when I said you guys repeat it to your partner, all of a sudden it went. Okay. Say it strong, loud and proud. Latitude is the distance north or south of the equator. Say it.
Latitude is the distance north of the equator.
Okay. Saying it with confidence and saying it loudly, that works too. Okay. Latitude is the distance north or south of the equator. Remember the word region? It's a small part of a bigger picture. Look at latitude. Latitude are these lines that run around the earth, and you have latitude lines north or south. So this section of the earth is considered a region. Okay? But this is a line of latitude. And what was your sentence about a region and north or south of the equator?
They're hotter
They're hotter
the closer to the equator.
the closer you are to the equator. Okay? We're going to get to that in just 1 second. But latitude lines go around the fat part of the earth. So you know what I always remember latitude? I call it fatitude. Okay, it goes around the fat part of the earth, the latitude. So the further north you get, you have different regions, and these are lines of latitude, and south of the equator. So, question for you, and I want you to consider this and talk to your partner about it. Is it going to be warmer at the equator or at the poles? Talk to your partners. Is it going to be warmer at the equator or at the poles? What do you think? Do you think it's going to be warmer at the equator?
Because look at it.
and ice. Raise your hand if you think it's going to be warmer at the equator. Right on. There's a couple of you are like, yeah, I do too. I think that too. Okay. Good job. You're all right. Except for I have a question. Why? Why is it going to be warmer at the equator than it's going to be at the poles? It's going to be warmer. At the poles, it's going to be colder. Why? 5 people know? Or have an idea? 7 people know? Or have an idea? 8? 9? I like you guys are raising your hand. Some of you are going, that's okay. You might not all the way know, but let's figure it out, okay? Why is it going to be warmer at the equator than at the poles? Turn to your partner, I want to hear. Okay? And okay, let's take a look at something, okay? What makes the earth warm? Everybody? The sun. So if you're closer to the sun, that's what's going to make the earth warm, right? So let's take a look at this picture of the earth with the sun. And let's decide how that affects weather, warm or cold, okay? Let's take a look at this. I have it somewhere. Oh, you know what? I don't. I have it over here. Here it is. Okay, take a look at this. Is that me?
It slides.
Okay. This is the sun. Here is. And here's the earth, okay? You have the equator. What do you notice about the sun's rays, the heat of the sun and the equator, and why would it be warmer at the equator? Because you were right, it's definitely warmer at the equator. How come, according to this picture? I like, okay, great, you're raising your hand, you guys are studying the picture, and you're looking at it and going, I think I know. Enzo, share with me.
Because not all of them are mostly all of them are in the equator, the light.
Okay, yeah, so most of the light, the direct light, like a laser beam, right? Like we were talking superheroes yesterday. A laser beam, boom, right to the equator. But some of these other lines, they're further away from the sun, right? So, are things going to grow better at the equator or at the north and south poles? Plants and stuff? Probably the equator, at least the plants that need sunlight, right?
At least the plants that need it very hot.
They need it very hot, right? Okay. So let's go back up here. We did latitude. All right. So real quick, latitude is the distance north or south of the equator, but the equator is at 0. It is right in the middle, okay? I want you to use the word latitude or equator in a sentence. Put your finger to your head and think about a sentence as it relates to weather, latitude, and the sun, and weather. Pull that sentence out of your head. Share it with your partner. All right. I'm going to share Cesar's sentence. He said, it's going to be colder at the north and south pole because it's further away from the equator and the sun hits it directly. It's a really long sentence, but did it do it? Did it tell us about weather? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Right on. Good job, you guys. Trying to decide. Okay, next word.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, question. Listening?
Where do the United States, like, is it closer to the equator?
That's a great question. And I actually had that here. Okay. Oh, sorry, Juan Diego's question was, is the United States closer to the equator or further away from the equator? It's kind of right in the middle. Let's check this out. Here's the equator, okay? It's hard to see on these maps, and I'll go to the other map. Here is the United States, but we are on about 40 degrees north of the equator. So here's 15 degrees, here's 30 degrees, here's 45 degrees. So we're about here. This is the ocean. The United States is right in there. Let's look at a different map because that one's kind of tricky. I have one. Okay, here we go. Okay, this one's a little different. Here is the equator right there. Okay, here is the United States. Here's the equator. Okay, so we are north of the equator. But we're not all the way to the poles where nothing grows because it's so dark and so cold. So do we have things that grow?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have more sun or less sun than the equator? The equator has all of the sun. And we're a little bit north. Do we have more or less?
Less.
A little bit less. Not like crazy cold, but a little bit less, right? Good question, Juan Diego. Okay, let's go back. Let's do one more word. Last vocabulary word, altitude. Altitude, everybody repeat that word. Altitude. Okay. We have 2 more minutes. Say altitude like you mean it. Can we say it like fast instead of saying it wrong? Altitude. Altitude is the height of a place above sea level. Repeat that to me. Altitude is the height of a place above sea level. Say that again. Altitude is the height of a place above sea level. So looking at this picture, here is the sea level. Here's the ocean. Here's the top of a mountain. The distance from sea level to wherever it is that you live is your altitude. How does altitude affect weather? Look at that picture. You've got a snowy mountain. You've got the ocean. You might live somewhere in between. How does altitude affect the weather? Think about that for a minute. When you have an idea, raise your hand. How does altitude, your distance above sea level, here's a snowy mountain, here's a nice little kind of mountain, here's the ocean. How does the distance from the ocean to the mountain affect weather? No one knows? How does altitude affect weather? Okay, let's go back to basics. Is it colder at the top of the mountain or at the bottom of the mountain? Top of the mountain, right? Why is it colder at the top of the mountain than at the bottom of the mountain? Okay, 3 people know? Or have an idea? 5 people know? 7 people might have an idea? Go ahead.
Because on the top of the mountain, it might be snowing or raining.
Right.
On the bottom, it's warmer because it kind of underneath it, it's warmer.
Good.
And it doesn't affect the mountain that much.
Great. Good point. Okay, go ahead.
The higher it gets, the colder it gets.
The higher it gets, the colder it gets. In terms of altitude. Good. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, I just figured this out. Oh, what side is actually getting the sun?
Okay, good point. It could be.
And there's one side getting the wind.
Okay, Fair enough. We're going to learn more about that. The next paragraphs, if you guys look, 3 and 4 on your reading is oceans and large lakes and mountain ranges. We're going to continue looking for the main idea and figure out all of these words. You guys are learning important things about weather, okay? Good job. I'd like you guys to just hand one person in your group your climate papers and put your markers away. Do you want me to have them put their markers on?
Yeah, they're having keyboarding next, so
Okay.
they can put their
So
stuff
put your marker and your boards away. Nice job.